Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's real estate deal breakdown, and I'm going to talk about a deal that I fixed and flipped for around a $40,000 profit. So if you're interested in learning how to fix and flip houses, this is a video you definitely want to watch. And if you're not familiar with me, my name is Greg Helbeck, and over the last 5 or 6 years, I've bought and sold well over 100 houses, and I've made millions of dollars in this business. And if you want to learn how to do the same, you should definitely check us out on YouTube. Obviously, you're doing that right now if you're watching this video. So if you do get value, if you could subscribe to my channel and like the video, it would mean a lot to me, and we're going to keep producing more content for you. So today I'm going to talk about a deal, 12 Birchwood Drive. I think it was Birchwood Drive, either road or drive or whatever, in Middletown, New York, which is a hot area in the New York City suburbs. It's about an hour outside of New York City. And I'm going to talk about how did I fix and flip this property for $40,000 net, right? I'm going to tell you how I found it, how the construction went, how we sold it, and hopefully you get some value. So number one, I found this property, I believe, through cold calling and texting. I'm almost positive. It was a vacant property, and the seller, I think, lived in Staten Island, if my memory serves me right. And he had his parents' home. It was vacant. It needed some work, and I reached out to him, and he said, yes, I want to sell. And I had to follow up with this guy for a couple months. I ended up meeting him at the property, and I made him an offer. I think it was like $125,000, maybe $140,000. My memory, we do a lot of deals, so I kind of forget the numbers sometimes. But I made him an offer right around there, either 120 or 140. Got the property under contract, and I did not want to wholesale it because it was a great property in a great area, and I didn't want to fool around and try to find a buyer because I knew it was a good deal. So I'm just going to buy this myself. So I reached out to a private money lender who I know, and I said, hey, would you be interested in funding this deal? This is what I'm buying it for. This is the repair budget. This is the resale price, and this is exactly what I can offer you in terms of interest. So, by the way, if you're listening to this or watching this and you want to potentially lend me money on my projects, send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. That's greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. Ended up getting the lender on board. He said, yes, I'll do it. So he gave me a loan. I bought the property, closed on it. I brought a little bit of my money to the table. I put some skin in the game, as they say. Most of it was closing costs, and a little bit of the money was the gap between what the loan was and what the purchase price was. So anyway, bought the property, hired a contractor, and we did a decent amount of work on this house. We did, we did some bathroom work. We did some major plumbing work. There was some sewer issues we had to dig up. We did a bunch of, paint and carpet and floors and all that stuff. We did the kitchen. We did appliances. We did a bathroom. I think we had 2 bathrooms. Did the whole basement over. We remodeled this property. It looked really, really nice when we were done with it. So the rehab, oh man, I think the rehab was $40,000 or $50,000, I believe. That was the construction. No, it might have been 35 or 40 if my memory serves me right. But anyway, rehab the property. We were a little over budget, but if you're rehabbing houses, you know how that goes. That happens almost every deal. You got to plan for it, and usually things come up. So renovated the property. I had a great project manager who helped me on this property, Andy, who's a great guy. Andy, if you're watching, you're the man, Andy Pollock. And we decided to put the house, obviously, on the market afterwards. We listed this property for, I think it was $275, I believe. I think it was $275 we listed the property for. And this is right when COVID started going on. Whoa, COVID pandemic happens, and everyone was like startled. So we went on the market. I think the rehab we did in about 6 weeks. So we put the house right on the market afterwards, and we ended up getting a pretty good offer, I believe at full ask price. And we went into contract, and the buyer got a USDA loan, which is a loan backed by the United States Department of Agriculture. I think that's what it's called, the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. So some special loan product out there. It ended up closing. But the rub on this deal was, number one, COVID was going on, so it was kind of like we thought the world was ending, and the buyer might have backed out, which they ultimately didn't. And the second thing was that it took forever to close. I think we were in contract with that buyer for 3 or 4 months. Like, it took forever to close. The loan was a pain in the ass. But anyway, got it done. I netted around $40,000 after it was all said and done with the fees, and I had to pay the project manager and the lender and the attorney and the broker, and everyone got their money. I netted about $40,000, and it was a scorching score. But here's the part that I left out. This property, I'm actually going to look it up on the spot right now. I sold it for $275, and I am going to tell you what this property is worth right now, which is insane. I'm doing this on the spot. This property says it's worth about $388, probably worth more, about $375. So if I were to just wait Obviously, since the COVID pandemic, the market went like that, and now it's starting to go like that. But this property is worth $375 the way it stands right now. Obviously, it's renovated and it's in good shape. If I were to know this and I wanted to hold on to this thing for an extra year or two, I would have made an additional $100,000, and I would have paid long-term capital gains instead of short-term capital gains, and I would have ultimately made more money. But here's the point. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't bank on appreciation. When I get appreciation, I'm like, great, but I didn't bank on it, right? I sold the property for what it was worth at the time. If I had a crystal ball, I would have obviously held on to it and probably threw a tenant in there for a year and then resold it. But anyway, who knows? Hindsight's 2020. Ended up being a great rehab. What are some lessons I learned on this deal? Number one, if you have a good deal in a good neighborhood and you don't want to wholesale it and maybe have the buyer screw you over or whatever, just buy the house yourself, right? If you don't have the money, there's someone out there with the money, and here's a nugget for you. If you have a good deal, the money will find you, whether that's the money from a cash buyer or the money from a private lender or a hard money lender, whatever. If you have a good deal, and I'm talking to you watching this, the money will find you. I promise that, as long as you're obviously reaching out to people and you have a good deal. Key there is a good deal. That was lesson number one. Lesson number two, rehabs are not easy, but they're a lot more straightforward than you think. Listen, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know construction. You got to have a good team. But at the end of the day, if you're doing, I call them plain Jane rehabs, where you're buying normal houses and you're putting normal repairs into them, yes, there are going to be surprises. Yes, you might go over budget, but they're a lot more straightforward as you think, right? You watch these TV shows, you see people blowing out walls. Yes, I've done that, but on this one, I didn't do that. I did a cosmetic. Oh, it was more than a cosmetic because we had plumbing work and electric work. But anyway, it was a relatively straightforward rehab. And it was lucrative. It was profitable, right? So at the end of the day, don't be scared to do rehabs. If you're in the Hudson Valley and you want to rehab with me, we should JV on a deal. Or we can wholesale deal together, whatever you want to do. So hope you got value from this video. If you're interested in hiring me to coach you one-on-one, email me, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, and we can have a conversation to see if we might be a fit. Number two, if you want to just JV with me, you want to do deals with me together in Delaware or in New York or in San Diego if you want, email me, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. I hope you got value. And once again, subscribe to my channel and like the video, and I will see you on the next one.